So I'm just gonna go further in depth of how I put this together. I'm not gonna take it apart more than this, just because I don't want to really have to unscrew the 90-degree valve to get access to that screw. But pretty much I took some aluminum bar like this. Let me measure it. It is about 3 millimeters thick and about 25 millimeters wide, and then I just cut this to length. After I cut it to length, I pretty much trace the general outline of the body here. You gotta make sure that you cut a channel here, because inside the magazine shell you have the strengthening dents or rolls. So just grind out a little bit here. I went just a little excessive, didn't really matter. And then towards the front, I just made it match the profile of the reservoir. So pretty much once I got this all final, I drilled the holes to match the original mounting screw holes inside the reservoir for the original magazine. I found some screws that were about the same thread. I do not know what thread. I just found them at work and they worked. So once you get the size and shape correct, drill the holes to mount it. I think I'm gonna have to take this apart. Here, I'll just slide down. I'll take it apart for you guys. I love you guys so much. I'm gonna do this for you. That should be it, right? So once you get the size for the, once you get the size correct for the mounting plate, and you drill the holes for these holes, the next thing you have to do is you see there's supports on either side of the mounting holes. I don't know why, I guess just to support the hole more. Since the way I did it, there's not a lot of room here, because that's where the valve is. If I can push it for you, that's the valve area here. That's where all the air goes through. Now obviously if I didn't cut these supports out on the front and I put the HPA valve in the middle, there would be no way for air to go towards the valve. So I just took a Dremel bit and I just cut as much as I could of these supports out, which you can see here. I just left those alone, but I cut those out so air can get from the middle chamber to the front chamber, so it could come out. So the way I did it is, once I got these two holes drilled and everything lined up, I cut the gasket, which is this piece of rubber here. I don't know what it is. It's just some rubber sheet that I had laying around. Cut that to size. And we're just with like a little punch, I punched out these holes. For this middle hole, basically you make the gasket after you make the top plate. That's the way I did it. So the top plate I drilled and tapped the hole for 1/8 NPT with this kit here, Century drill and tool, but this is 1/8 NPT drill and tap kit. So I drilled the hole, then tapped it, and then after I tapped it, I blade this over the rubber, mark the holes and the center hole and the outside edges, and I just use a little razor and cut it out. And surprisingly, no leaks. I literally, the first time I put it together and tested it, no leaks. It really helps when you're cutting this mag well, like in my first video when you cut this. It really helps if you file it like I showed, to make sure you get as much as a flat enough surface, pretty much. You really want to make sure that this is as flat and flush as you can. Not only does it look cleaner, but obviously it allows a better surface for the gasket to seal. If it's uneven, if there's low spots, there's high spots, the gasket is not really going to work well. It might work, but I don't know. So first I screwed this on. I screwed it on before I put the 90-degree on, just to make it easier. So once you screw it all in, make sure it's nice and tight, so that rubber gasket really gets pushed out. That if you do the same exact gasket I have, which I don't even know what it is though, but if you have, you know you have a good seal is when the rubber is actually getting pushed out, which I actually had that issue where everything was flush, but when I started torquing down these screws, it would push down and push this rubber out. So you might have to do a little extra trimming to get this to fit into the body. So tighten this back. So once you have it like this, it's pretty much ready to go. For the BB area of the magazine, since you cut it short, there's no base plate in it anymore. So I just pretty much melted a small little hole, put a really small screw just to hold the spring in and everything, and so far it's so good. I'll probably change this a bit just to make it more secure, but for now it holds it in place. After you get that done, then you can start putting the rest of the mag together. So here's the locking mechanism for the bolt catch. I get the ink. Oh, there we go. Nice and strong. That was one thing I was worried about, is that since it's a shorter spring now, I try to pre-tension the spring as much as I could, and there's actually a lot of force on it compared to a stock empty magazine. Sometimes the W mags, the original M14 mags, when it's empty, I ran into problems where the spring might be getting weak and it actually would fail to lock the bolt back on empty because there wasn't enough pressure to push up on the bolt catch. But I don't think I'm gonna have that issue at all. Let's see. For the body of the mag, I pretty much laid this on top to make sure it's flush with the top of the mag. And once you have it flush with the top, like how it would normally sit, I just took a small flathead and I just scraped where I need to cut. That's an old scrape mark that I had from an estimate of how far it would sit, and I was pretty much bang on. So from the front of the magazine, this is the front, I cut back but didn't cut all the way through. I left a back portion, which you see is bent over right here. I bent that over to keep the back of the mag from sitting too low. Because that's what happens, is if this back of the magazine sits too low in the body of the magazine, two things might or will happen. First issue you might see happening is your gun won't lock back on empty because it's sitting so low that this is not pushing up far enough to engage the bolt catch. Second issue you might have is that if you have an extreme angle, one, your bolt catch won't even work because this is too far down. Two, you might start having jamming issues or cycling issues because the front of the mag might come up a little too much. But if you're worried about the front of the magazine sitting too low, don't worry about it. As you can see, this channel right here stops at the top. And what that does is inside the magazine, it sits right there. So that's to stop the mag from dipping down too low. To stop it dipping down too low in the back, I made that little ledge. So these fell out because they always like to fall out. Put this back. Trying to do this one-handed. I'm gonna clean this up, don't worry. I'm gonna get all these metal shavings from the outside. Test it, okay. Get everything inside the mag well. And this I might need two hands for. Nope, there we go. Just slide it in. Boom. It's actually sitting a little high right now, but it's because I'm doing this one-handed. But there we go. So that's pretty much where it's gonna be. I do have to tap it in a little bit to get it to sit right because it's very tight fit, but that's pretty much your completed mag right there. Now there's no screw or anything to stop the reservoir from being pulled out, unlike the stock M14 mag. But seeing how, as two things, seeing how that this magazine won't be removable from the M1 Garand, that's not so much of an issue, because it'll be always pretty much being pushed in by the bolt, so it won't fall out. Plus, with that rubber gasket, like I said, when you tighten down these screws, the rubber likes to be squished out from the side, so that actually why it's a lot tighter of a fit. So if I hold it upside down, shake it, it's not gonna fall out. So the only thing you have to worry about is it going too far in. But that's pretty much it. Let me plug in my line. I got all the HPA fittings from Amped Airsoft. It's all 1/8 inch NPT or 1/8 NPT 90-degree fitting with a 1/8 NPT slip connector fitting, and I got extra just in case, but I just got a 3-foot 6mm line. It's always good to have more line than less line. Turn on my tank. I'm running right now about 120 psi. But it works. The line, it's on. There's air, it's pressurized. You don't hear any leaks. Push on the valve. It works. I just gotta test it out in my M14. I should be getting the M1 Garand in about a week, so in the beginning of November I'm ordering it. So this project's about a week or two from being done, or over a week from being done. So I give it about 2 weeks to 3 weeks and it should be final and complete. But that is the mag. I'm actually really happy how it came out. If anybody who wants to do this, I might start making these for people. If you have a mag already for an M14, it's Labor is, I'm gonna charge about 30 bucks for labor. So you can send in the mag. It's about $40 for all the HPA parts plus shipping. So if you want to send in a mag, it's going to be about $70, maybe $80 in total, parts and labor. If you do not have a GBB M14 mag, you can either buy one and send it to me. I do have a few M14 mags that I have that I could do, but I charge another probably like 40 bucks for it. So in total, if you don't have a mag and you want me to use one of my mags, I'll probably charge like 120, right? Labor, parts, about $110. So if you want, I can build you one. If you want to try it yourself, I'll find the link to all the parts and you can order them. Any questions, please feel free to message me, comment, or anything. And that's it. So just let me know if anybody's interested in having me convert a mag, and I'll gladly help.